So I'm Heather Bayer. I call myself a recovering property manager because I sold my company after 20 years in June of 2022. So I'm sort of 11 months, nearly a year into being without the company, although I've still been involved in some ways throughout the process. And I'm just so happy that the new owners they're continuing to flourish. The business is flourishing. They've not lost any owners, and they've kept all my staff, which is exactly what I wanted. So I am now focused on the Vacation Rental Formula Business School, where we are curating some of the best education in the industry to help upcoming property managers do this business properly. And what I want to do is take all the mistakes, and there were many, all the mistakes I made over the last 20 years and help other managers not make those mistakes. And of course, I am also the host of the Vacation Rental Success podcast, which is coming up to its 500th episode and coming up to 1.5 million downloads, which I'm very proud of. If I look back on all the mistakes I made, then there's a lot of areas that I think people are missing out on because I'm not the only one. I'm not the only property manager making these mistakes. So within the education, we're looking at things like setting up standard operating procedures that everybody knows, because so many property managers are entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs carry their ideas in their heads like I did for years, until we started thinking about selling and thinking, these new people are going to want to know how everything works within the company. So we had to create our standard operating procedures and disseminate that to all our staff, and I wish we'd done that years ago. And then there's things like owner acquisition. Over the last year before we sold, we had nearly 400 inquiries, and which was just phenomenal. And we only took on a fraction of those because we got very picky about acquiring new owners. But I would like to help property managers learn how to do that. We used a strategy that is so simple, and it's just about free. And I think many property managers are missing this essential part of owner acquisition, which is making a compelling owner area on their website. So much is put into guest communication and making the website look great for guests, obviously, because you have to have that. But if you also want to attract new owners, then you've got to do the same for the owners and make it interesting for them to come to your website and be interested in what you're offering. Well, I started in 2003, and in fact I started buying my own properties back in 1998, last century stuff. So we've seen a lot of changes. We've gone from the catalogue, the paper catalogue advertising our properties, all the way through to where we are now. And we've had the ups and downs. We were 100% direct booking at the outset. We dabbled with the OTAs for a year or two until we realised that they were looking at a little bit more control than we wanted. So we came back, and by the time we sold, we were 95% direct booking once again. And we did it through a content strategy. We made our website interesting for everybody to come to, whether it was owners or guests, because we became the local experts. And so we had plenty of people visiting our website who would never rent a cottage from us because they were either coming to stay with friends or they were going to a resort. But we were always in their minds. And we had lead magnets that they could download, and in return they gave us the email address, so we built up a massive mailing list throughout that time. I was so naive. Going into this. I thought it would be a matter of just putting the business up for sale, like selling a house. And if I look back 20 years ago, I should have just bought houses and not gone into property management, because at some point you have to sell your business and know that it's 6 months out of your life. It's 6 months of but apart from the fact you've got to find the buyer first, you've got to select the right buyer who's going to keep your staff and keep your owners and not fall down at the first fence. And also, there's a lot of due diligence that goes into that, and I was not prepared for that at all. I wasn't prepared for somebody going into every single transaction we'd done in the last 3 years and questioning absolutely everything. And I have to say, I had a few meltdowns along the way, and just like, I'm not doing this anymore. Why are they asking all these questions? And then when it got to the contractual stage and the lawyers were involved and we were talking about how much time we should spend in the business after the sale, because I hadn't expected that either. So we were contracted to spend another year in the business, and it's like, I want to walk out on June the 1st and sign the papers and say goodbye, but that's not the way it works. So I think advice for anyone thinking about selling is start at least 3 years before, but if you can 5 years before. And in fact, when I'm teaching people or training people how to start a property management company, it's in the very first lessons. It's start with your end in mind. Well, networking is obviously one of the best parts of any conference. I love the Book Direct show. We went to Miami in October. It was absolutely wonderful. Everybody's like-minded. We're all on this same path of becoming independent. And this is my first time at Scale Rentals, and it's a little bit like VRMA on steroids. People seem to be much more focused. They're more interested. It's less vendor led. And I love the fact that you can stand up on stage and tell your story and not do any promotion at the end of it, because it's never necessary. So I've absolutely loved this event.